it's Gwen from Hummingbird Tarot, and today I'm doing a video response to Anthony's 31 Days of Tarot. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So today is day 17. What tarot cards do you look for in new decks, and if you don't like those cards, does it ruin the deck for you? And my answer is definitely yes, it ruins the deck for me if these particular cards don't connect to me in a way that I feel it's going to come off well when I do readings, that I'm going to respond to well when I do readings for myself, and then that others will respond to when I do readings for them. I'm going to show you these cards first in the Rider-Waite-Smith version that's called the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot deck, and this is one of my favorite Rider-Waite-Smith decks. And there are a lot of cards. I've got them all laid out here for me. This particular deck, these are the cards that I look for, so this is what the back of this deck looks like. And I'm just going to go through these cards one at a time. The Three of Swords. And my plan is to show you the cards in this deck, and then I'm going to go through several decks, and I'll put links to each of these decks down in the description so that you can find them in more detail if you like later on. But I'm going to show you different decks and these cards and how I responded, what I liked about these cards. I'm going to also include a deck that I bought kind of on a spur of the moment, and there's so many cards in the deck that I don't like and that are in these cards here, and I'll share that with you too, and why I don't like those cards. So I started off, I had the Three of Swords, the Judgment card, the Devil, the Tower, Death, the Hanged Man, the Moon, and the Ten of Swords. And these are probably cards that a lot of you look for. For me, I like my cards to be a little more gentle sometimes when delivering themselves in readings. If the image on the card is a little too scary, it can be very jarring, and sometimes the person I'm doing the reading for will get caught up in what a particular card looks like rather than the message that I'm sharing, and just be upset immediately as soon as the card comes out in the reading. And obviously I can talk them down from that, but it's great to not have to start in that place in the reading. Let me take you through some of the other decks that I have in front of me here. Another deck that I really like that I have in front of me, and I'm looking for it, here it is. This is the Book of Shadows Tarot, and this was my first soulmate deck, and I really connected with this one because they're modern images, and I'm not going to show you all of the cards that we just looked at. This particular deck had a lot of these cards in it, and I really liked the way that it was presented, and that's another thing that really appealed to me about this deck. This is the back of the deck, and I initially bought this deck because it had modern images in it, and then once I got into the deck and really started to use it and saw how all these cards were presented, it really made me like the deck even more. So this is the Three of Swords, and you know, the grief is presented. It's a little softer than showing knives sticking out of a heart. And then this is my all-time favorite Devil card from this deck. And, you know, the Devil card is about temptation, and this definitely presents temptation and how it can be self-imposed, and, you know, self-imposed restrictions. And this describes that very clearly. It gets the same message across, but it doesn't do it in such a scary way. Here's the Tower, and clearly she's on the phone and has just received some bad news, something that's shocking, you know, so that works too. The Death card, this one, if you look closely, you can see the kids standing up on the porch, and it looks like, I would guess, would be the father figure putting luggage into the back of a car, and there's a real estate agent and they're selling their home, and it doesn't look like a pleasant image. There's definitely the end to something. The Hanged Man, I love this Hanged Man. It's very calm. Definitely looking at things from a different perspective in a positive way. And the moon, sometimes the moon can be really scary. And although there are some scary things in the picture there, the woman in the card to me still looks so confident and strong and defiant almost, that I appreciate that. And sometimes the moon card can be scary, you know, presenting the things that go bump in the night sometimes really are scary and you really should be concerned. And it feels like she knows that she should be concerned, but she's confident and is taking her steps forward anyways. And, you know, as long as you're being deliberate about that, knowing what the risks are, then that works as well. And then the Ten of Swords, I love this one too. It's got the phoenix in it. And it's just such a card of strength. It's much more positive than showing a dead body laying there with a bunch of swords sticking out of his back. That is the Book of Shadows tarot deck. This next deck is another one of my favorites. It's the Druidcraft Tarot. I have trimmed my version so it's a little bit smaller here. I just want to take you through some of the cards. This moon card, I like this one. It does show very similar to Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's not really scary like some of them can be. And I'll be honest with you, I only have one example of what scary cards look like, and they disturbed me only because I bought the deck before I realized that these were in here, and I've had this deck for many, many years. And now if I see cards that I find particularly disturbing in a deck, I just move on. I don't even buy that deck. So I don't have very many in my collection. Another one, and another example, is the Hanged Man, and this person is tied up. The original version of this, actually the male is completely nude. I've added some clothes on mine. This is a little bit more disturbing because some of them, like the one I was just showing you, the Book of Shadows, she's doing a yoga pose where she's upside down and she can clearly get down as easily as she wants to. And this person is actually has restraints on them and then is hanging upside down. So it's a little bit more disturbing, but still okay. And then here we have the Death card. And it's not completely undisturbing, but it's not terrifying like some of them can be. And then the Tower card. And this one, it can be a little disturbing as well, but it's still not as bad as it could be, as a lot of them are. And this is less jarring than another one that I'm going to show you here that could be even worse. Okay, this next deck that I want to share with you is the Gilded Tarot, and I really like this deck too. It's beautiful. I like the way the images look. Here is what the back of the tarot deck looks like, and I'll just take you through some of those same cards in this deck. So here's Death. Not too bad. The Ten of Swords, and the knives are heading down, pointed down, but they're not actually impaling anybody. The Tower card. Judgment. The Three of Swords. The Devil. And I'm not showing you all the cards in all the decks because just the ones that are a little bit more might make me stop for a moment and consider them. And now I'm going to show you some of the cards in the deck that I was mentioning before. If a deck presents itself in this way, then I may just move on. So this is the Celtic Tarot. I have actually two versions of this deck. I have the miniature version and then this larger one. So here's one of the cards in that deck that's pretty tame. This is the Judgment card. And then some of the other cards I haven't included just because they have nudity in them. But this is an example of one that I can't use this deck when I'm doing readings for others because it would just, this whole deck has images like this. This is the Tower. And that's much more disturbing than just the lightning striking the tower. Let me show you the back of the deck. I really like the back of these, even though the front's a little scary. And then a couple more. The Hanged Man. And Death. And he's holding a head. So I'm sorry, I just can't use that deck when I'm doing readings for others. That would just be too upsetting. Now I'm going to show you, this is from the Everyday Witch tarot deck. This is one of my favorites as well. And this is these are some of the reasons why this deck is one of my favorites. So here's the Three of Swords. Death. And I should show you, here's the back of this deck as well. And this also is one of my all-time favorite tarot cards out of any deck. And this is the Tower. And I love the message here is that she's taken down the tower herself. You can still see the little spark on the edge of her wand there. This devil creeps me out because it's a creepy old guy with 2 children. But it's not as disturbing as that other devil I showed you that has lots of teeth and fire and scary things from hell in it. Here's the Judgment card. And then finally the Moon. And I love how, if you look at the cat in the reflection of the water, the cat is a panther down at the reflection. And then the last deck I want to show you is another one of my favorites. And this is the Light Seers Tarot. There are a few images with this deck that I find disturbing. The Three of Hearts. This is brutal. But the rest of this deck is just so full of light. There's one more card that makes me a little uneasy. But the rest of the deck is just so beautiful, so full of light that it offsets this. Here's the Moon. And she looks like she's drowning to me. And then I'll show you some of the other cards of those first ones that I showed you that come off very positive to look at. The Devil. It's not as scary as that other devil I showed you. Judgment. And this is one of the most beautiful Judgment cards out there. The Tower. Death and Rebirth. This one's beautiful. And the Hanged Man. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any cards that aren't on the list of cards that you look at, why don't you share down below? Or if you have any other decks that have great versions of these cards that you'd like to share, I want to hear about that too. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you on the next time around. Thanks for stopping by.